Daily Cyber Briefing for Wednesday, the 1st of February. I'm Stephen Ridgway, and I have a special guest, Eliza May, who has joined me after a little bit of an absence. So welcome back, Eliza.
Thank you.
So I shall kick off. Hackers have been abusing Microsoft's verified publisher OAuth apps in order to breach corporate email accounts. So yesterday, Microsoft said it took steps to disable fake Microsoft partner network accounts that were being used for creating malicious OAuth apps in a campaign designed to breach organizations' cloud environments and steal emails. The applications created by these fraudulent actors were used as part of a phishing campaign that tricked users into granting permissions to the fraudulent app. The permissions then gave the attackers access to accounts and so on and so forth. Hopefully Microsoft is properly on top of this. Proofpoint, who do email protection, cloud-based email protection solutions, pointed out that malicious OAuth apps, these ones had far-reaching delegated permissions. So reading emails, adjusting mailbox settings, gaining access to files and other data within the victim's account. So two of the apps in question, one of them was named Single Sign-On, two of them were named Single Sign-On, and the third app was called Meeting. So relatively innocuous-looking apps. So watch out for those. Worth a check to see that all of the Microsoft-approved partner software that you've got actually is legit. And yeah, so more information in the article. We'll link to this. A little while back, we spoke about vulnerabilities in the baseboard management controller firmware used by 15 major vendors of hardware vendors. Two more vulnerabilities have been disclosed this week. So systems using AMI's Mega RAC baseboard management controller are vulnerable, and 15 vendors are using this particular software, including AMD, Asus, ARM, Dell, EMC, Hewlett-Packard, Huawei, Lenovo, and NVIDIA. Although, frankly, if you're using Huawei stuff, this is probably the least of your worries. So yeah, look for patches and updates. Appreciate patching firmware can be a pain. However, and this is following on from the flaws that were identified in December. So if you've just been through the pain of patching to address those, there is more pain to come. But definitely worth going to the trouble of doing this. It is an area that is broadly ignored, but certainly for sophisticated threat actors, is an area of rich pickings if they can get the right sort of access. Okay, an article in Dark Reading which caught my attention was pointing out that using DNS to mitigate, or firstly to get visibility on potential malicious activity going on in your organisations, and secondly as a potential means of controlling some of that. So DNS, something in the region of 90% of malware will use DNS at some point during the attack, be that identifying C2 servers or identifying locations for pulling down multi-part malware or whatever it may be. Most, not all, but most companies don't closely monitor DNS lookups. Consequently, all this stuff goes on in the background unnoticed, but would be potentially relatively simple to spot if you keep on top of some basic rules around what does a legitimate DNS lookup look like. So if you are able to, I would recommend that you pull DNS lookups into your scene. And there are in some intrusion prevention solutions already alerts that will deal with this sort of thing. So, lookups for unusual domains, lookups for domains that have been registered only very recently, those sorts of things. Although it is ignored by a lot of organisations, DNS is definitely something which provides a great deal of security information. Strongly recommend ingesting the stuff, looking through it, and perhaps building some rules or ingesting some rules into your scene that will alert from that. And Eliza, that was all from me.
Excellent. So there has been a report out, I think it was yesterday. Was it yesterday, Stephen, about Darktrace?
Yes, I think it was, yeah.
It is damning. So we'll see where this goes. So a company called Quintessential Capital Management have released a report. We will link to that. And this is, by no means, we're not reporting on this to dig at Darktrace. It's important that people that are cybersecurity buyers in terms of budget holders understand that just because someone tells you something is great and they're trying to sell you something doesn't mean it necessarily is. Now, it's up to you to make your opinion on that. A lot of people have bought Darktrace and repeatedly bought it, so they must be happy with it, so that's good. So essentially, this company called QCM are a New York-based financial company, and they've done an investigation. And they've released a damning report. We're sending a link to the Financial Times. The one in the Guardian is better, but it's behind a paywall, so you're probably not going to be able to read it. So they've been accused of overinflating their finances and engaging in something called channel stuffing and round tipping. I had no idea what that was, so I had a look at it, and it's basically making it look like you have. So from my understanding of it, from reading the articles about this, is it's like you create these sales just before your financial end of year review, and then once that's passed, you give the money back. So it's not actually a sale. So it seems quite awful, really, thing to do. Not a very ethical business practice. At the same time, there's an accusation. This is all accusations, by the way. This is, there's not any evidence that I've seen. It's just accusations. And the other thing is, if you get sort of an agreement with a company that you're going to be working with them for, say, 2 years, putting that all in your year one finances, even though it should be accounted for over 2 years. So there's some practices there that are quite damning. On the qcmfunds.com link that we're going to be sharing, there's there's a link to the article itself, to the report itself, from QCM. So that may be worth a read, especially if you are a customer. Again, if you're happy with the service and stuff like that, that's awesome. But there's some bullet points that are picked out and put on that front page as well when you click on the link, and that's pretty interesting. Multiple executives and board members and line managers have got involvement with a company called Autonomy, which is a software company as well, and they've been accused of over egging their worth prior to a sale to Hewlett Packard as well. So there's a lot going on there. It's definitely worth having a look, and you have to ask yourself, is this the kind of behavior we want in cybersecurity? I think so. I would be doubtful that they're the only companies doing this, to be honest.
Oh, no, they're
We've
not.
No, so this genuinely is not a dig at Darktrace. This is
No,
a
it's
sort of an exploration and discussion around the companies that are in the cybersecurity market and what it is they're doing. I know, Stephen, we've come across some big names, haven't we, that have gone up against us, and they've beat
yes,
us in some cases. They've won the
yeah,
deal, the contract. Fine. You, as a CISO or head of IT, you go with who you feel is best for your company and base that on risk, right? But we have come to blows with multiple huge names that have not beat us on technology, have not beat us on service, have not beat us on proof of concept. The engineers 9 times out of 10 want to go with us, and suspiciously they end up going with a competitor which costs 3 times more, and we find out later down the line, once someone leaves and they ring us and tell us that a backhander and a private deal had happened at a senior level.
We are so going to get sued.
Why? We're not. No, we're not talking about Darktrace here.
No, we're not. No, let's make it
We're not.
absolutely clear that there is no indication at all that Darktrace is associated with that particular behaviour, although we do know that other organisations have engaged in it in the past.
We're not even a competitor of Darktrace. We don't do user behaviour analytics. No. So what I'm talking about here is like odd practices that just seem to be normalized.
Generally bad practice. This whole thing about revenue recognition in order to make your company look more successful than it really is it's aimed effectively at defrauding the market, especially if you're looking to get into acquisition or merger or buyouts, those sorts of things. It is literally fraudulent behaviour. It is effectively saying we will account for tomorrow's revenue today. Now, that revenue, you shouldn't be accounting for revenue until you've earned it, regardless of even if you've been paid for it. That stuff is returnable if you stop delivering the service, basically. And it fiddles the figures in such a way that it makes it look like your company is much bigger, much more successful than it really is. It is genuinely fraudulent, but very difficult to prove. Now, there are occasions, I've seen these in the past, where revenue has been recognised for things that actually never even happened. So
really?
It was agreements in principle that company X will buy services from company Y, gets down on company Y's balance sheet, but never happens. So there's all sorts of bad practices that go on at that level, and I think I'm absolutely certain it happens in every industry, not just cybersecurity. But I think for me, it's deeply frustrating that in an industry which is at least supposed to be helping businesses to be secure in what they are doing, that they're willing to engage in dodgy practices at best, or potentially fraudulent and illegal practices.
Scribbling. You can hear you scribbling on the microphone.
Can you really?
Yeah. Well, I think as well, there's something there with a lot of these companies. They've got the capability, surely working hard to actually produce the service or the tool in a good way and constantly improve it takes less effort than to just, maybe it doesn't, maybe I'm just being naive.
Well, I mean, if you look at Darktrace, I know it looks like it's turning into a Darktrace bashing session, but actually I think as much as anything else it's a Mike Lynch bashing session, because he was in charge of Autonomy, and which
was the software company that we just discussed.
So he's waiting to be extradited to the US to stand trial for 15 criminal charges of fraud and false accounting linked to his business Autonomy when it was sold to Hewlett Packard. So the fact that his next business, although he's no longer involved in Darktrace day-to-day management, but he still remains a substantial shareholder in Darktrace. So here we go again. it is, I think, probably very disappointing for the people who are in the organisation trying to do a good job to protect their customers, that business practices like this bring them into disrepute. I feel for them a bit.
Yeah, and I just want to state again, we're not in competition with them. So it's that's genuinely like we're not. It's not why we're reporting on it at all. It's a big news story. Yeah. Okay. I don't have anything else to report on. I just wanted to discuss that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's fine. Well, thank you all for listening to our rant, and we will. I'll definitely be back tomorrow, and you never know, we might have a special guest tomorrow as well.
Yeah. Hardly special if you see me. Woke up looking like Ken Dodd this morning.
Thanks for listening. Speak to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.